For you, this is WRTV News at 6, streaming now.
4 dozen additional COVID-19 deaths, the highest single-day report in 5 months. This continues a recent spike in cases and deaths. We're holding the governor and elected officials accountable and finding out what the plan is to keep you healthy.
A COVID-19 outbreak at a local nursing home killing 4 people. WRTV investigates, looking into how this happened.
The Far East Side has been its own island, and this is huge for the Far East Side.
A new plan to help small businesses impacted by COVID-19, and the focus is on the East Side.
And a huge announcement for the Indiana Pacers. The team has a new head coach leading the way. We will introduce you to Nate Bjorkgren.
And we go from moderate drought across central Indiana to the potential of flooding tonight with some heavy rainfall, where the heaviest of that could fall by Wednesday morning.
Right now, breaking news into the WRTV newsroom. We requested and received the state's COVID-19 vaccine plan, which could go into place once a vaccine is ready. The Indiana Department of Health submitted this proposal to the CDC for review. So when a vaccine is ready, who will get it first? Well, the Department of Health says their vaccine allocation committee prioritized the healthcare workforce and those people who are at greater risk of death from the virus for phase 1 of COVID-19 vaccine distribution. Among the general population, long-term care residents would be prioritized. So would people with underlying medical conditions, those who are 65 years of age and older, and people at risk of severe COVID-19 illness, also those at risk of acquiring or transmitting the virus, and people with limited access to vaccination services. You can read the entire draft of Indiana's vaccine plan right now at WRTV.com. The spike in COVID-19 cases and deaths continue in Indiana, now reaching levels we haven't seen since the spring.
And we begin with the latest numbers from the state. The Indiana Department of Health reports 48 additional deaths, the highest single-day report since May. In total so far, 3,775 people in Indiana have died with COVID-19. The state also confirms 1,551 additional coronavirus cases. 150,664 Hoosiers have been diagnosed with COVID-19 since the pandemic began. And data from the Department of Health also shows that 36% of Indiana's ICU beds are available. 78% of the ventilators are available as well.
As COVID-19 cases are spiking at an all-time high since the spring, WRTV is continuing to hold the governor and state leaders accountable about your health. Our Stephanie Wade reports on where we're at right now and the governor's response.
Today is now the 14th consecutive day with more than 1,000 new cases of COVID-19 in Indiana. An even grimmer statistic. 48 deaths were reported today. That is the most deaths reported in a single day in Indiana since May, when we were in Governor Eric Holcomb's phase 2 of his Back on Track plan, ranking the Hoosier state now with the 15th highest rate of cases in the country. A total of 1,425 Hoosiers are also in the hospital right now with the coronavirus, according to the State Department of Health. The last time we had over 1,400 hospitalizations was also in May. Indiana's 7-day positivity rate for unique cases is at 12.4%, but some counties find themselves hovering 20% positivity. We asked the governor today if he will make any changes as a result of this. His office referred us to what he said Monday.
Well, we'll know when we see it. Look, again, we are monitoring from the very beginning our 4 principles, and that has all to do with the amount of testing. When you're doing 20, 25, 30,000 tests a day, your radar is going to become even more transparent about what is and isn't and where it is and isn't. So we're seeing more cases. That's a good thing. We're also tracing to an extent like never before. And we have the capacity to care. So when that starts to become threatened, that capacity to care, then we'll look at additional measures.
Stephanie Wade, WRTV.
We expect to have another COVID-19 update from the governor and state leaders tomorrow. You'll want to stay connected with us at WRTV for that update. Late this afternoon, we did get this statement from the Indiana State Department of Health, quote, Today's total includes deaths that occurred over the weekend but were not reported until today's dashboard, which is something that we see frequently. As Dr. Box has said, being in stage 5 does not mean that Indiana is back to pre-pandemic times, and Hoosiers need to continue to wear masks, practice social distancing, wash their hands, and stay home if they're sick in order to curtail the spread of the virus. Throughout the pandemic, we've asked Hoosiers to consider their own health and risk factors, as well as the risk factors of their close contacts when making decisions as they go about their daily lives, end quote. ABC News obtained facts and recommendations from the White House Coronavirus Task Force specifically for Indiana. The White House acknowledges the epidemic control situation in Indiana is worsening. The report also states the 3 counties with the highest number of new cases over the last 3 weeks are Marion County, St. Joseph County, and Lake County. Together, they account for 24% of the new cases in Indiana. The White House also says the ability to further limit avoidable increases in hospitalizations and deaths in Indiana will depend on communities' compliance with social distancing measures. The report says localized, more intense mitigation measures in high incidence areas are recommended, including maintaining or increasing restrictions on gathering sizes, especially indoors. You can read the full White House report on WRTV.com.
4 people are dead following a COVID-19 outbreak at a Boone County nursing home. Signature Healthcare at Parkwood has 37 residents and employees with active COVID-19 infections. 4 people have died. The Boone County Health Department is working with Parkwood to provide support, testing, and mitigation efforts. WRTV Investigates asked the health department how this outbreak started, and they told us it could have been an employee or a visitor, given the facility recently started allowing visitation as Indiana went to stage 5. However, all it takes is one person to introduce the virus.
And when people are headed indoors, they might get closer together. And if they're indoors, the ventilation won't be as good as if it was outdoors. So knock on wood, this is going to be an isolated incident. But again, it only takes that one person. And unfortunately, those folks in those long-term care facilities, oftentimes they've got a weakened immune system.
Advocates for the nursing home industry point out over the last month, Indiana has had 40,000 new cases of COVID-19, but only 3% of new cases have been in long-term care facilities. They say anytime you have community spread, nursing home residents are at a higher risk.
An effort is underway to help small businesses impacted by COVID-19 as a new round of grants focuses on the Far East Side. Several organizations have teamed up with LISC, or the Local Initiative Support Corp, to help make that happen. WRTV's Megan Sanctorum went out to the Far East Side to talk with business owners there and found out why they say these grants will do more than just provide financial support.
The open sign is on, but the lobby is quiet here at Kingdom Cleaners on the Far East Side.
It's been a struggle, and that's the only word that I can really use to explain how I've survived the pandemic.
Owner Michael Allender fighting every day to keep his business afloat, dealing with not only the recent loss of his wife, but the economic impacts of the pandemic as well.
She was the brains behind the operation, and then pandemic hits, COVID hits, and the country goes into this pandemic swirl, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills, how am I going to eat every day.
And so far, he says he hasn't qualified for any financial assistance.
I've gotten nothing yet.
Telling us he feels like this part of town has been forgotten. Other business owners saying the same thing.
This side of town needs a lot of help.
Ms. Marcia's Sweets was only open several months before the pandemic hit.
It was rough. It was rough. When COVID let up, we had to start pretty much from scratch again.
They too just trying to make it through.
The Far East Side doesn't always gets overlooked when it comes to funding or support or grants. And it's time to take this community out of surviving mode into thriving mode.
Community leader Dee Ross with the Ross Foundation says this new round of grants will bring more than a financial boost to businesses here.
There's a lot of businesses that I work with on a day-to-day basis who are losing signs of hope, who are ready to give up. And so it's time to counteract that narrative and bring back hope back into a hopeless community.
Grants would help not only Miss Marcia's Sweets, but it would also help build up this plaza here. It would also build up the community.
I can go home and sleep. I can go home and sleep. for at least a couple of nights, you know what I mean? Instead of going home and worrying about how I'm going to pay these bills.
Working for you, Megan Sanctorum, WRTV.
Minority, immigrant, and women-owned businesses are eligible to apply for these grants. They must be located on the Far East Side. The deadline to apply is this weekend, and we do have a link with more information for you on WRTV.com.
The Pacers have found their new head coach. They went with one of several candidates with no experience as an NBA head coach. Nate Bjorkgren comes to Indiana after 2 successful seasons as an assistant with the Toronto Raptors. That team won the NBA championship in 2019, made the playoffs this fall in the bubble. Bjorkgren has been on NBA sidelines since 2014. He was a head coach in the G League 4 years prior to that. The Pacers will formally welcome him to Indy on Wednesday. Kyle.
It has been a cloudy, cool day across central Indiana, but now we actually are hearing some rumbles of thunder, especially over the western portions of the state here and around Crawfordsville. Some areas of heavy rainfall that extends back between the Rockville and Veedersburg area, and it's really the heavy rain as these storms move over the same locations. That's going to be a concern. Not quite as heavy, but still a little bit of lightning there as we look just northeast of Bedford. Tonight, potential for 1 to possibly more than 3 inches of rain in a few spots. So even though it has been on the dry side, flooding is going to be an issue. Make sure that you avoid those flooded roadways. This evening, temperatures will actually continue to rise as those rain chances also increase.
Tonight, Brown County school officials are investigating an apparent racist posting that was printed in the high school yearbook. In the 2020 Brown County High School yearbook, an African-American student was listed as, quote, black guy instead of his name. In a letter obtained by WRTV, parents and students were notified of the error. The letter says an investigation is underway to find out how this happened. It goes on to say that the error in the 2020 yearbook is a clear violation of our non-discrimination policy. The school's yearbook is typically put together by the yearbook class and is overseen and edited by teachers. Last night, the Brown County School Superintendent, Dr. Laura Hammock, released this video apology.
I've already heard from a couple of class of 2020 graduates who are just sickened by this and couldn't agree more. Want the community to understand this evening that this is fundamentally a situation that we are taking as the only priority for our time right now. What we are deeply committed to is advancing equity and inclusion in our school system.
Superintendent Hammock also said the district is working with their vendor and the student's family to come up with a solution, including looking into potentially reprinting the yearbook and having students return their 2020 yearbooks. We reached out to Brown County schools today trying to find out how this could have happened and if they are making any changes to make sure something similar never happens again. The district told us they didn't want to make any more specific comments until they are done with their investigation. We won't stop here. We will continue to work to get answers in this case, and we'll update you when we have more information.
Democracy 2020, long lines at the polls. Voters are not waiting until November 3rd to make their voices heard. In fact, more than 734,000 Hoosiers have already voted early. That's according to numbers from the Secretary of State's office compiled by the U.S. Elections Project. The total number of votes cast so far is equal to more than 26% of the final presidential vote in Indiana in 2016. And we are still 2 weeks from Election Day. WRTV's Troy Washington caught up with voters in Marion and Johnson County to find out their reasons for waiting in line and getting to the polls early.
The Indianapolis City County building keeps a crowd these days as voters line up willing to wait however long it takes to make their vote count.
I get my vote in early, so that way it'll free up time for me to get out and help support other people.
Patricia Gray says for her, early voting is the only way she can make sure she's able to help other voters exercise their civic duty come Election Day. WRTV asked her why she didn't mail in her ballot.
I feel that something's going to happen, they're going to get lost, and my gut always proves me right, you know. They're not going to get turned in. It's just been so much happening over the last few years. I just don't trust it at all.
And WRTV found out she isn't the only voter who preferred in-person early voting.
I don't want to do the mail-in. I don't trust the mail-in. I want to make sure I go down and physically put my hand on my ballot and put it in. That makes me feel more comfortable.
Over in Johnson County, the same applies. Some people just want to beat the long lines Election Day could bring. especially due to COVID-19 concerns over crowds.
I figured come out and avoid maybe some of the crowds, and I hit it right today because I was able to walk right in and walk right and vote and walk right back out then.
Some voters say they are showing up instead of mailing their ballot in for the experience of it all.
It's better than just sitting there at the house and filling it out. That's no fun.
In both counties, the early voters we talk with tell us the bottom line is no matter how you choose to go about it, it is important to vote.
I haven't voted in 35 years, but I had to get out and vote. For good reason this time.
Working for you in downtown Troy, Washington, WRTV.
With the quiet weather lately, maybe you cleared out some apps, but make sure you got that Storm Shield app ready to go. Any flood alerts that might be issued sent right to your phone, and of course radar at your fingertips. We'll take a close look at that rain in a few minutes.
A Hoosier Connection will be pairing one of racing's young stars with one of the sport's legends. Chase Briscoe talks with our Brad Brown about a dream come true. The Mitchell, Indiana native getting the call to drive for Hall of Famer Tony Stewart.
Socked in the cloud cover and with some fog across parts of central Indiana. Other areas dealing with some rain already for you in Bloomington at 56. It's cloudy, 53 in downtown. Radar shows where we've got those thunderstorms already moving in. And again, the threat for any severe weather is very low for us this evening. But look at the rainfall rate here in northern portions of Park County with those thunderstorms, nearly 2 inches per hour. And the issue is, as we have thunderstorms moving over the same locations again and again, we'll have possibly some flooding issues, and that extends just north of town there in Crawfordsville. Lighter rain for you right now in Nashville and around Bloomington, as we had that rain report for you right now in areas of Monroe County. Here's a look at TrueCast, 7 o'clock this evening. Things continue to increase in coverage for us, and it will stay active as we go through the overnight. And notice this band of thunderstorms stretching from around Terre Haute, Indianapolis through Muncie. Doesn't really move too far as we get to 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Then by mid to late morning hours, we begin to dry things out, but we are going to keep quite a few clouds around. The concern, rainfall potential near I-70 could exceed 3 inches if we get that line that doesn't really move. It tapers off a little bit north and south, about 1/3 of an inch in Lafayette. Temperatures throughout the day on Wednesday, well, they're going to start off mild, then temporarily cool before we rally back into the middle 60s for that afternoon high. And that's about where we should be for this time of year. 66 in Muncie, 67 degrees in the Bloomington area. Temperatures actually going to feel very spring-like as we head into our Thursday. We're talking about numbers that will get around 80 degrees for that afternoon high. Thursday is really going to be the pick of the week for us here, as we will have dry conditions and warm temperatures. That could be our last 80 here of the season. As we look at the 7-day planning forecast, we're mild again on Friday, middle 70s there, but late in the day we'll have a front that comes through with some scattered showers and thunderstorms. That knocks temperatures back a big way here as we go into Saturday. Just 54 the high there. We'll keep it cool into early next week, Amanda, with more rain on the way.
Thanks, Kyle. Back on the 4th of July, Chase Briscoe won NASCAR's Xfinity Series race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Mitchell, Indiana native will race for the series title in a couple of weeks. And as for his 2021 season, it's about to get even bigger. Brad Brown caught up with Briscoe today for our Sports Extra Spotlight.
When they say Chase Briscoe, driver of the number 14 for Stewart-Haas Racing, how does that sound now that it's had a little bit of time to settle in for you?
It's still really surreal. I don't think it's truthfully even hit me yet. You know, we did a video shoot the other week and they were having me just say that it didn't feel real. So it's crazy to think, you know, for me growing up such a diehard Tony Stewart fan, to be driving that 14 car, you know, for me just to get a drive at Stewart-Haas was always a dream come true. But to be able to drive that 14 car that has so much history, especially connected to the state of Indiana and just everything Tony's done with that number, AJ Foyt, you know, all the legends. It's crazy to think that I'm going to be the next guy to be able to drive that, and hopefully I can add to that history.
What's your history with Tony? How far do you guys go back?
Him and my dad obviously have known each other for a really long time, and I was just always a diehard Tony Stewart fan because he would obviously I'd watch him on Sundays, but then you never knew if he's going to be at the local dirt track running the USAC race or a dirt late model or any of that. So for me, I was always kind of drawn to Tony, plus just knowing that, you know, him and my dad raced together, I always thought was really cool growing up. And, you know, I go home, I still have Tony Stewart, you know, blanket and stuff in my room. My cousin was texting me earlier today, giving me a hard time about how I still have a Tony Stewart number 20 stocking. I might have to change that this Christmas. So for me, I was always a diehard Tony fan. And it's just crazy to know that I'm going to be driving that 14 next year.
You wanted Indy this summer, and clearly that was a special afternoon for you. Can you put that into words, just what that whole afternoon meant?
Yeah, that day is the day that I'll never forget. And, I wish so badly that we could have had fans there that day. That would have really just been icing on the cake. For me, just to get to race in Indianapolis was so humbling and such an honor. Just to get to turn one lap there, it was something I always dreamed of getting to do. And
I do have one more question. Your NASCAR Cup debut will likely be at the Daytona 500. How about that? Now, what is that going through your head already?
Yeah, it's crazy. Just to think about watching that race every year and to get to experience that pre-race, just how they do the pre-race, the flyover, that national anthem, all those things. To have that be my first Cup start, at the biggest race of the year is it's a little nerve-wracking to think about, to be honest with you. So we'll go there and just treat it like any other race. They all pay the same amount of points, so we just got to go there and try to do our best that we can and let the cards fall where they fall. But it's certainly crazy to think I'm going to get to run the Daytona 500 in general. But for that to be my first ever Cup start is crazy to think about.
Congrats, Chase. Best of luck to you in November and, of course, in 2021 in that number 14 car. Good luck, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Chase will race for the Xfinity Series Championship on November 7th in Phoenix. The News at 6 continues after one more break.
Radar starting to get a little more active, and that is a trend that will continue with some rain and thunderstorms through the overnight, and some of that rain could be heavy. We're talking about the potential some spots could see over 3 inches of rain, leading to some flooding problems.
Thanks for joining us.
World News Tonight is up next. We'll see you back here at 7.